Hello, everyone, and welcome to GenX Parenting. It's been 4 months since physical schooling had started, but the cry of, Mama, I don't want to go to school, it's still heard in many households. Many secondary school students are still facing issues with respect to time management and writing skills as far as written exams are concerned. We at GenX Parenting thought of discussing these back to school challenges with psychiatrist and psychotherapist Dr. Ananya Chiltale. So watch this video till the end very patiently. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to GenX Parenting because that motivates me to come up with relevant and informative content for us, the new age parents. So, coming to our today's topic, that all of us were expecting some kind of starting problem when this physical schooling started. But it's been 4 months, and we still observe that pre primary or primary school going children are showing disciplinary issues. Inertia is still there, anxiety is still there. For secondary school going children, there are issues when it comes to focusing or time management, which is especially important during exams. Writing skills are not up to the mark. What is your perspective about the same?
Let's not forget, 2 years children have been confined to their one room and their one screen, right? And that has definitely caused them to go into their own shell, wherein the skills that they need to be okay in a school, like for example, as you rightly mentioned, the writing skills. Now, writing skills just doesn't involve writing per se. It is actually like looking at the board, identifying, keeping it in your short term memory, and then translating into your own writing, right? So it's a complex process. And what was happening, we all know scenarios in our home during the online schooling. Many of the times parents were writing for the children, or children were not writing during the class, and later on pdfs would be shared. That was it. No, children were not actually writing down the classwork. Homeworks were not done. So children have practically lost their capacity or ability to actually write things, memorize things, or translate whatever is into written on the board to the paper. This is just one part, but apart from that, let's imagine other scenario what we used to have during our online schooling. Children were not willing to sit for 3 4 hours. Then page number, teacher would say open page number 76 from book 1, and child was not able to find, and then he was not able to find. So what we would do कि अरे नहीं बैठना तो चाहिए school में करके, we would only take out the book for the child, we would only find out the page number and keep it in front of him, right? It's not just about writing skills. If you see, children were completely dependent on us in most of the families when it came to reading, writing, copying the notes, eating their food during the school hours, drinking water. Everything was given in their hands at their comfort zone. Now, the moment the school has started, the stress is not just about academics. Let's understand that their struggle starts from the part where they have to go and find out their own classroom. They have to listen to the instructions and go in the club activities at different places in such a huge building in the school all by their own. They have to navigate through strangers. Why? Because the friends that they had made in past, they might not be there in school. Many people relocated, staff, teaching staff has changed, office staff has changed. So practically now, if I have to go to the school as a child, it is not just a completely strict academics or discipline issue, but it is about navigating through a lot of stuff independently for 6 to 8 hours, which was completely not there for last 2 years. So if you can see, it is not just the academics. All these small things are enough for a child to cause stress, leading to anxiety, and make him land up into avoidant mechanisms, where then we start seeing, the inertia. Then every morning when there is a school time, child will have stomach ache or headache, and then everything is fine after the school timing goes away, right? Or the child is cranky only when there is a topic of going to the school, or the child becomes suddenly nervous, he's freezing, he's crying, or he's making, or he's talking things like, I don't want to go away from you. Okay, I don't think so that I can manage at school. I don't like school. Teachers are strict. Teachers are saying something to me. Too much of homework. The teachers are very fast. All these things, why they're happening is because they have just forgotten to navigate through these things on their own. Plus, let's not forget, 2 years, children have been protected in a way where they did not have to face any sort of criticism from external world. Now today when they're going out, they are completely facing it for the first time, teachers shouting at them or telling them, okay, come on, write fast, write fast. Now this itself they can perceive it as an insult, or this itself they can perceive it very sensitively, where they feel too offended because they don't know how to deal with this, as they have not seen this happening with them for the last 2 3 years, right? Now all these things are enough to create a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, followed by all these externalizing behavioral symptoms in children, where they can get cranky, depressed, sad, nervous, irritable, obstinate when it comes to go to school, or even lazy when it comes to go to school, right? So even though COVID has gone in that sense, the impact of COVID or the aftermath of COVID on the neurodevelopmental aspect of children, as well as the psychological development of children, is still there.
So that's what the next question is, that how do we parents deal with these issues? And secondly, where to draw a line, where the parent has to step back and let the child handle his challenges on his own.
So I would say let's start with the first thing. That is that we cannot take a step back unless and until we're sure that our child has developed the adequate coping strategies, and his core issue of why he doesn't want to go to school is understood and then addressed. Okay, so how to do that? The very first thing you have to remember is to validate our child's emotions, right? So if the child says, "Okay, Mama, I'm feeling too nervous, I'm feeling anxious to go to school," please don't go and tell the child that, "Why are you feeling anxious? What is there to fear about? Okay, look at other children, look at your friend. Aren't they going to school?" Okay, what is important here is to say, okay, okay, I can understand that you might be feeling terrible, or you might be feeling nervous, or you might be feeling sad, whatever the emotion child has expressed. Can you let me know more about it? Can we discuss about it? Okay, so just accept and validate the emotions. And once you do that, the next step is to sit with a child and discuss, wherein you can identify why exactly the child doesn't want to go to school, right? Now for that, there is a small activity that we as parents can do with children, because for younger children it might be difficult for them to verbalize in proper words as to what is causing stress or why they don't want to go to school. Okay, so this thing we call it as stress bucket, right? We tell them, or rather we ask them, tell me what are the things that are filling your bucket with stress. Okay, so you just tell whatever it is. So I'm afraid of teacher, I don't know if I would have my friends again, I have to make new friends, I'm not sure how to make the new friends, I don't know, the school building is too big for me, I don't know where to go. Or it could be simple as that, I just don't want to leave you people. Show that bucket to the child and tell the child, okay, write down whatever you feel is filling your mind with all those stress. Imagine your mind as a bucket. Once a child does that, then again talk to the child and ask him that, okay, how do you think we can poke holes in this bucket so that all the stress flows out like water, right? So let the child first come up with the solutions. If at all he can think, or he might be already thinking of certain things. If not, then you can always ask him, maybe, shall I start helping you with this as to how we can make holes and let your stress flow out of the bucket? Child will obviously say, go ahead. And in that case, then you can start with a few more things. Okay. Now, the first thing is that reframing of thoughts. Let's not forget that all our emotions are triggered by some things that we are thinking about a particular situation or about a particular event. Okay, so we need to think differently to feel differently. That's what we have to teach our children, right? So for example, the child will say probably that why don't want to go to school is because I can't do the things the way I would do, normally do for last 2 years. So if this is the thought which is triggering that sadness, you can help the child reframe the thought saying, ki, yes, you can't do the things that you would normally do, but then can you do things differently now? Okay, or can you do different things and see what happens with us, right? So changing the way the child is trying to think or see the situation, or trying to reframe, as what we call it as the thoughts, is important. Okay, after that, sit with a checklist, for example. So if the child has identified different things that are stressing him out, which are preventing him to go to school, put that in a form of checklist, and in front of each of them, start writing what could be the solutions. So problem solving. So the first problem is that I don't know if I would be able to complete my notebook. Okay, then in that case, write down possible solutions. So what could be possible solutions? Asking the teacher 5 minutes of more time. If that doesn't happen, then requesting friend's notebook to complete it at home. Okay. Nowadays, most of the times, classwork is shared in the form of PDF. So coming home and completing that. So is that big of a problem? Then when you do this activity, that for each stressor you do the problem solving part, the child realizes that the problem is not as big and as unsolvable as I'm thinking. Okay, so that can cut down the anxiety or the stress of the child. Why this is important? Because we get stressed out, we feel angry, we feel sad, or we feel nervous when we think that the problem is way bigger and we can't do anything about it. That triggers all these negative emotions. Okay, so sitting with the problem and problem solving it in different ways, actually on paper, will make the child realize that things are not as bad as I'm thinking. The child will not land up into catastrophic thinking, what we call as. Okay, so that is the next thing. Now many times, even I have had children who get anxious even when we start talking to them about going to the school, just by starting the topic itself. So it is important to educate your child how to calm their anxiety. So there are two important ways to breathe that you can teach your children. So whenever a child is nervous or stressed out, or even angry or anxious for that matter, focusing on breathing will help to relieve those negative emotions. And how to do that? We call it as blowing bubble technique, right? So you can actually have this blow bubble toy that we get in the market and keep it at home and give it to the child whenever the child is anxious. Okay, and ask the child to take a deep breath inside and then blow it out as if he's blowing the bubble out. Okay, and imagine the worries going afloat in the sky, just like that bubble. Okay, that is one. Second is, we ask the child to imagine, or you can actually have perfume at home. You can take that perfume, ask the child to smell it deeply. Okay, and then again release the breath via mouth slowly and gradually, as if he's blowing his birthday candle, right? Like, ask him to imagine the candle and how the candle blows out when he blows air into it. Same way the worry is blowing out as he's blowing out the air, right? So these are simple day-to-day things that you can do when the child actually starts feeling nervous. The other thing that you can ask the child, or rather help the child to do, is grounding technique that increases child's mindfulness, or what we call it as being in the present moment. Why that is important? Because when we think a lot about how will I manage, how will I do, whether I will be able to follow the discipline or not, whether I can make friends or not, all these are problems that we are imagining in our mind. They are basically imaginations, right? Most of them might not be actually real when the child actually goes to school. But if you get lost in your imaginations, if you think too much of it into future, you're going to get carried away and the stress is going to build up, triggering avoidant mechanisms. So it is very important to bring back the child into the present moment if it starts going too much into imagination and too much of overthinking. So for that, we use this grounding technique. So grounding technique is where you ask the child to sort of imagine what he can see at the moment. Okay, one thing he can hear at the moment, one thing that he can feel or touch at the moment, or one thing that he can smell at the moment, and one thing that he can taste at the moment. So you can see, we ask the child to use all his five senses and focus the five senses in present moment as to what he can see, hear, touch, smell, and taste. And that helps the child to get back into the present moment. Okay, so these are two, three things. One was grounding, and one was about the breathing technique that you can uh, help the child practice it on a daily basis. So whenever, in once he goes to the school and he starts feeling overwhelmed, by any of the negative emotion, he can practice this, calm himself down, and then problem solve. Why this is important? Because if you're already emotionally overwhelmed, your rational mind is at that point itself going to stop functioning, right? So it is very essential to activate our rational mind, first calm down the emotional mind by breathing and grounding techniques. Once that's done, it is little easy for us to think rationally and then problem solve, right? So if your child is into practice of calming himself down on a regular basis in school, when he goes and when he gets suddenly overwhelmed, or if he finds that there is an issue or a problem, he can use these techniques and then further problem solve from the checklist that you already have made, right? So this is how children would be able to regulate themselves if they are taught this way, right? Now, beyond that, it would be important, when you talked about drawing the line, I would say what is important is drawing the line where we will get carried away by their emotions, and where we will hold firmly that no, irrespective of what emotions you are having right now, going to school is non-negotiable. Okay, so that's the line that we have to be very, very clear about. Because if suppose a child is using some of the tactics to avoid school, and it could be emotional tactics, I can't go away from you, how will I stay without you, I'm feeling very scared, nervous. The child is very emotional or using emotional tactics on purpose. And if we give to their emotions, saying that, acha, okay, don't go, let it be, to kal jayenge, tomorrow jayenge, then trust me that tomorrow will never come. Okay, because they have gotten used to, they, what this reinforces in their mind is that once I get emotional, I can avoid school comfortably. Nobody is going to force me. So every single time you bring up the topic of going to school, they are going to come up with this emotional reasons, right? So right from day one, or every single time, you have to firmly keep stating to the child that, see, going to school is non-negotiable. We have to go to school. I understand that you are facing issues, or you are getting scared, or you are finding it difficult to sit through 6 to 8 hours of your entire schooling, but we can find out a way for that. But we have to go to school. The next step would be, after doing all this, yes, talking with the school counselor, being open to the school counselor and the class teacher that my child has issues. What I find with parents is that they're very reluctant to accept that my child can't read properly, or my child can't write properly. Okay, they feel it a matter of shame. But we need to overcome this and openly talk to the school authorities. One more thing that we need to remember, that usually a child should take anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks maximum to get used to school. After that, a little bit of chaos might still continue when it comes to going to the school, but yet the child is going to school. But if not, if you're really struggling, you have to literally pull the child out of the bed, and yet the child is not going. For elderly children, you can't really drag them out of the bed and then take them to the school. And now we are already in fourth month of active schooling, offline schooling, and still if the child is majorly cranky, irritable, still absenteeism is very much prevalent with your child, then in that case, high time that apart from school authorities, you might need to approach to a mental health professional to figure out the way further. In relation to academics, openly discussing with your child, and secondly, again, giving more time for them. If they need, get them assessed from the school counselor. Again, if they need, remedial education might be an intervention to help them till they cover the 2 years of conceptual lag that they might have suffered from. And most important thing is that if you pressurize only on academics without addressing these baseline issues, the child is going to even get more and more repelled from the school. So remember that getting our children to school is important because school prepares them for life. It's not just for them to get academically trained, right? So from that perspective, handle your child.
Thank you, Dr. Chitale, for that insightful discussion. The whole idea behind having this topic today to inform parents and make them feel that this is a common problem. Each and every parent of this generation is having it, and you're not alone. So don't feel embarrassed or awkward to accept that your child is having an issue. Open up, discuss about the same with this relevant people, and if needed, to mental health specialist. I hope this video was helpful to all of you. If you really like it, do share it with your fellow parents. And for more such informative and relevant videos about today's parenting, follow GenX Parenting. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.